Christian Jackson here with Jamie Hollingsworth, who writes for GoCougs.com. Great basketball mind. I love the way he breaks down Houston. He was a former video coordinator at UAB and a former high school basketball coach. He is our source for Houston today. Jamie, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be back.
So Houston has been, I think, inarguably the best program in college basketball the last handful of years. You know what you're getting out of Kelvin Sampson defensively. Offensively, the three-point shooting has just continued to get better, and the way that he's used the portal and kept guys has just been a model. And this year's interesting, though, because you've got the same retention. You only lost one guy to the portal. You only bring in one guy, and it's a depth piece. But this year, it's about these freshmen. It's about Chris Senack, Isaiah Harwell, and Kingston Flemings joining this core of Miles Suzanne, Emmanuel Sharp, and JoJo Tugler. Tell me about how, this freshman class kind of came together and how you think Kelvin is imagining how these guys can fit into the culture the way that everyone else has in this era of Houston basketball.
Yeah, so 3 big-time guys, all 5 stars, 2 McDonald's All-Americans. Really should have been 3. I think Kingston is as good as they come. I think that, they just started recruiting each other almost. Once you got one of them, then they just started working on the other 2. Was able to get all 3. I had a chance to see Kingston play twice last year in person. He is just a different animal. Like when you think John Morant, Derrick Rose type athleticism from a point guard, that's what you're getting. So he's going to be a little different than some of the other point guards that we've had in the past. But he's a special athlete. Obviously, Senack, possible top 10 pick in the draft next year. 3-level scorer. He brings a dimension that they haven't had really since Jarris Walker, but I think he's a little bit more polished offensively than Jarris was. He doesn't have that, body that Jarris had when he came in, but they're working on that. I know they've already put 10 pounds on him, but I think he just brings a different level of scoring from that position that we haven't had in the past. And then Isaiah Zay, I think Devin Booker, when I watch him play a little bit, can really, shoot it from deep, but he can also take it off the bounce. So, yeah, these are 3 guys that, honestly, the U of H fans, they haven't seen anything quite like this, especially with 3 guys coming in at the same time.
I think it says so much about these young kids who can go basically wherever they want when they're ranked this high, to choose hard. And you know what you're signing up for when you go to Houston with Kelvin Sampson, and they're choosing that, even though, they're expecting maybe not all 3 of them, but at least 2 of them, probably one and dones, right? So I think that is really cool that Kelvin Sampson has been able to build the way he has, and now starting to get this. You had Jarris Walker, but to get guys like this, I think, and 3 of them in the same class is really impressive.
Yeah, you can definitely see just in the little bit of media availability that he's had that you can tell he's really, really excited for these guys. I know the assistant coaches are, but it's rare that, he talks that much about freshmen, and, he's still going to treat them like freshmen. I think his saying is the best thing about freshmen is they become sophomores, but like you said, 2 of them probably won't be sophomores. So, yeah, you can tell he's really excited for all of them as well.
I want to talk about Miles Suzanne and Emmanuel Sharp, the returning backcourt. Obviously, great defenders, great 3-point shooters. Milos shot sub 30% at Oklahoma, but Houston did their homework and was like, we know what this guy is capable of. And he was just fantastic all season long. Sharp, just such a great defender. He's got that interesting release on the 3-point shot. There's just something about he loves taking those above the break threes from the wings, and those guys are just cash money. So they're the leaders, they're the foundation. The on-ball pressure, Milos controlling the offense. Do you expect a leap in them statistically, or do you think they're more kind of? Do you expect it to just be really balanced? Honestly,
no. I think you see a much bigger leap with Milos, especially, just because I think the feedback that he got when he entered the draft to get the feedback or whatever. they wanted to see him be a little bit more aggressive offensively. And I think, we talked about Kingston earlier. I think you're going to see a lot of them together so that Milos can just get out and run and look to score early. I think this will be one of those teams that you really haven't seen as much with Houston as far as transition offense. I think you're going to get a lot more early shots in the shot clock. I think they're going to look to run a little bit. We interviewed Kelvin Sampson the other day, and he mentioned that transition offense was going to be a key for this team. So I would look for both of them to get out and look to get early shots this year.
So if Houston's going to play a little bit faster this year, do you expect that is the defense going to drop from first in the country to maybe just 10th or something because of the possession? Or do you think that the additional kind of opportunities to run won't put
I don't think you'll see it drop. He's not going to let that happen no matter what. So I think you could see a little bit more depth. Looking at it, they could legitimately play 13 guys. I think they play 10 to 11 this year, which is more than they have in the past. But yeah, depth is definitely going to be a strength this year for sure.
Year 3 for JoJo. Obviously, we know about his wingspan, his length, his defense, his rebounding. But offensively, do you think that there's room for growth there? Is there enough shots for him to kind of add a little back to the basket to his game, or do you expect him to kind of just be who we saw mostly last year?
No, I think that they're making that a big key. That's something that the assistant coaches have mentioned, that they're looking to get his offense going a little bit. You saw it a couple of times towards the end of the year last year that the first play of the game actually went through him. It was a little screen that they had him come around, get a little shot in the paint just to get him going a little bit on offense. But, yeah, I would expect him to take a significant leap this year. I don't know that he's going to shoot many threes. He shot a couple last year, but he's capable. And I think you're going to see him a lot in the pick and roll game this year. But yeah, I would look for that little flip shot in the lane this year a lot.
Talk to me more about Senak's game. You said he's a 3-level scorer. Is he a guy that will post up a bit? Is he just getting downhill? And I know he can shoot a bit too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's a guy that can score from either block. We had Josh Carlton that transferred from UConn a few years ago. He was really good on just that right block, going over his left shoulder. This guy can do it from both blocks. He's got a fadeaway. Mid-range, he's really, really good. But if you don't get out on him, he can absolutely knock down the three. So, yeah, he can do it at all 3 levels for sure.
So that's your top 6 guys, right? But Ramon Walker, Mercy Miller, Cedric Lath are all back. Key depth pieces, right? What are you expecting from that group?
I think, the one name that I have circled that I haven't really heard a lot, there's 2 that one of them I have heard a little bit about, but I think Mercy Miller takes that leap this year. He was a high-level scorer in high school, had a 60-point game. He showed flashes, but he wasn't quite ready defensively, I don't think, last year to play, a full Kelvin Sampson game. But I think that they've made that a focus this year. He's looking really explosive. He played in the Drew League, had a poster on a guy in the Drew League. I didn't know he had that. But he's a guy that can get to the basket. They want him just to take the easy shot. If he's open from 3, just shoot it, because a lot of times he was forcing stuff last year. But he's the name that I think takes the biggest jump this year. Another name that I know John Rothstein mentioned a little while back was Chase McCarty. He was a redshirt freshman last year. He's been hearing a lot of good things about him. I think they want him to be just a significant 3-and-D type guy. I think he can kind of chip into some of those points that LJ had last year from outside. So I would look for him in the corner a lot this year. And then he's just got really good length. So he'll be a really good defender as well.
The one transfer, Khalifa Sacco, 6'11", 230, played at Utah State and then Sam Houston State. Is he behind Cedric as another guy that can be, there if there's foul trouble at the top? I actually think he comes off the bench as one of the first bigs off the bench. I would think Javier Francis, his game a little bit, rim protector.
lob guy, that type of stuff. I don't know, exactly his strengths on offense, but I would look for him to play that Javier Francis role.
And then Bryce Jackson, another freshman who isn't as high profile, but I've heard some nice things about him. 3-star recruit, 6'6". Is he a project? Could he potentially redshirt, or do you think he could factor in?
Yeah, I think from what I've heard, the plan right now is for him to redshirt. I watched him play a couple of times in high school. He's a local kid, played at the same high school as Ramon Walker Jr. Mm-hmm. He's a really skilled guy. I think he had some injuries early in his career that kind of set him back a little bit. He probably would have been rated higher, which, U of H doesn't. They say they don't care about ratings, whatever, but star ratings. But he was on, a nice projection, and then I think he had some injuries that set him back a little bit. But yeah, I think the plan right now is for him to develop and come back next year.
I think back to DeJon Jarreau and Caleb Mills as, guards that were really talented and able to get to the rim that Kelvin kind of would just let cook sometimes. But obviously the defensive intensity was really high with those guys too. Fleming's, is he kind of similar to them? And do you expect Kelvin to, you mentioned him playing alongside Milos. I guess paint the picture, I guess, what you think Kingston Fleming's looks like. Obviously you spoke of mentioning D Rose and John Morant type athleticism for a point guard is pretty enticing here.
Yeah, no, they've put some videos out there where his head is above the rim. Like, it's crazy to see. And I've seen it in person, like I said, but he is an elite pick and roll type guy. So, he drops dimes. So I would look for him a lot on the pick and roll, and he does just a really nice job reading the defense. I think he'll get in the paint. He's not an elite shooter right now, outside shooter, but he's really, really good when he gets in the paint. Great decision maker and really, really big competitor. That was the one thing that really stood out to me when I watched him last year.
I think it's interesting when you mentioned Milos' NBA feedback, some of that being to be more aggressive. Something I love about his game is that he is pretty poised on the ball and doesn't really get sped up. What does Milos increasing his shot volume kind of look like to you? I think he took like 3 threes a game last year, maybe 4. Is it that where you see the increasing, or is it just maybe less responsibility to run the offense and facilitate with another handler with like Fleming's coming in, that he's just going to have, just playing off ball, kind of like Cryer, shifting from being, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I think they want to see him get in the paint a little bit more. He has a really nice floater, but I think he needs to use it a little bit more. And then also just his decision-making when he gets in the paint, kick it out to the open shooter. But I think that was the main feedback that he got, was try to get in the paint and then just make the right decision when you get in there.
His floater was so good last year. Maybe it's get to the rim all the way to the rim more. Is that part of it too?
That and just do it more often.
Yeah.
I think they just want to see him get in there as much as possible.
Non-conference schedule. Who does Houston have this year?
So they have Mississippi State in an exhibition game. That's late October. They play Auburn in Birmingham. Then they go back to Vegas. They play Syracuse and Tennessee as the first 2 games. And then we'll see what happens with that third game. Florida State comes here, but it's at Toyota Center. And then they play Arkansas in Newark, New Jersey. So those are the big out-of-conference games.
When Houston has just been so elite the past 2 years, and you're just so close to reaching that final goal, how do you think Kelvin and the staff has kind of just kept the expectation so high and kept the quality so high that no matter players obviously cycling through less than basically every other program in the country, but what is it about him and his staff that just is able to keep this absolute top level excellence and keep getting better, honestly, every single game?
So I think every team in the country preaches family and culture and all those key words, but when you look at Houston, it really is. I mean, when you say family, well, his son is the coach in waiting. His daughter is director of basketball operations. His grandkids are always there. And his coaching staff, they lost Quantus White this year. He took the Louisiana job. So that's the first coach that's left in 10 years. Everybody else has either played for him or been a manager for him. He's big on trust. And so you could literally say it is a family. But then they beat the culture into you as soon as you get there. The 5 a.m. on the track all summer long, the individual workouts, the beach volleyball with a medicine ball. Like, they teach you to be tough from the day you step on campus. And then, like you said, you have so many guys that are returning every year. They're able to get that culture into the new guys as well. So retaining the players, but really retaining the coaching staff has been really big for them.
It's really amazing. It's a model, and the standard of excellence is just incredible. It seems like it's only a matter of time that, I don't know, they're Houston's, I think, 10-1 odds to win the title right now. It's almost would be shocking if they weren't a 1 or 2 seed. Like, it's hard to fathom a world without catastrophic injuries that doesn't happen. So I'm just kind of buckled in. I'm ready for another 30-win season, and I'm ready to see what these freshmen can do. Like, I just think it's going to be exciting to mix that flavor in, because we got a taste of Jarris Walker, but to have it be multiple guys, I think it is really enticing. Any last just reflections on last season or things you expect to be different from this year? The one thing that's really resonated also with me is the tempo. This is the team that 359th in the country in tempo last year. It's hard to imagine with how good they defend for it to actually go much higher than that. But you're right. If you have the talent to run and to get good shots that way, like why not, right?
Sure. The one thing that stood out for me from last year, obviously, 35-5 is crazy, but you lost 3 games in November. So of those 5 losses, you lost 3 in the first month of the season. They go 19-1 in the conference. That'll never happen again because the conference is going back to 18 games from 20 last year. So unless something crazy happens, 19 is going to be the all-time record for the Big 12. And even crazier is they went 10-0 on the road.
Yeah.
So, I think the one thing they'll have to figure out, and from my understanding is losing the leadership of J1 Roberts and LJ Cryer, because they really were the 2 leaders last year. But from what Kelvin was telling us on the show the other day is that Uzan and Sharp have already taken that. They feel really good because that's probably, the losses that they had in November last year. They didn't really have an identity yet as far as who's going to be the leader of the team. When you lose Jamal Shed from the year before, who was the obvious leader. But once they figured that out, they got rolling. So if they can start this season off with Uzan and Sharp leading the way, then they should be in good shape.
I mean, last year, the 3 regular season losses, 3 of the 4 regular season losses in overtime, and the other one, a game you were up, I think 7 or something, late second half, to the team that was the consensus number 1 team for 2 months. It's just when the defense is that elite, there's just no outlier games for them where they just don't show up, which is just so, like, it's just hard to wrap your head around because there's not a single other program in the country that you can say that about.
Right.
So, Jamie, appreciate your time. Always fun to talk Houston. The bar is so high, but of course this is, alongside Purdue, probably the clear top 2 national championship contenders.
No doubt. I really appreciate it. It's always good being on with you because that means the season's almost here. So I appreciate it as always.